All right, so good morning, everyone. Let's get started. My name is Catherine Maya. I'm an Associate Commissioner with the Department of Planning and Community Development. And to formally get us started, I'm going to introduce our Commissioner, James Rouse.
Hi, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining on a Saturday morning. We're currently in our 7th community conversation. So I see some names that have participated before, so thank you for returning. And those names that I don't recognize, thank you for your first time participation. Just to start off, I do have to apologize if my video starts getting buggy. I think my system resources are having some issues, so if I jump off of camera, I apologize. But just want to introduce myself. I'm Commissioner James Rouse with the Department of Planning and Community Development. You just met Associate Commissioner Captain Mejia, who's with us today. I'm also joined by Deputy Commissioner Marlon Molina from Planning and Community Development, as well as our Senior Planner, Will Highland. I also noticed at least one other colleague from our department, Lauren Pluth, who's been able to join us this morning. And happily for the first time, we are joined by our consultant for this process, Shachi Pandey from Metropolitan Urban Design Workshop. So before I hand it over, I just wanted to say, for those of you who are new to this process, Mount Vernon is undertaking its first comprehensive planning process since 1968. So it's been 55 years since we've done this, and so we're really excited to be turning the corner in getting the first phase of this comprehensive plan done. Now, while it may sound like a long time, and it is a long time since a comprehensive plan was done, it doesn't mean that we're in a bad position by any means. A lot of municipalities in the region have never done a comprehensive plan, and other municipalities haven't done it in even longer period of time. The fact that we're attempting it now and that we attempted one about a dozen years ago puts us in a good position to actually get this done, because we have the knowledge, we have the experience, and we have the background documentation to lay a foundation for creating our future. What we're going to be doing over the next hour and 15 minutes to hour and a half is we're going to be trying to create, share our vision for Mount Vernon. And sharing our vision in such a setting is really important, because we all have individual visions of what Mount Vernon should be, but working together and working collaboratively allows us to bring the best ideas to the forefront. We don't need necessarily compromise our vision, but we need to collectively, gather our vision in order to create a true identity for Mount Vernon. So that's just the basic overview. I'd like to turn it over to Shachi Pandey from Metropolitan Urban Design Workshop, who's going to be kind of sitting in the background like a fly on the wall to talk a little bit, just give her an opportunity to talk about her firm and talk about the other members of her team.
Thank you, James, and welcome everyone. It's a beautiful day outside, so we're all really grateful that you could join us this Saturday morning. I'm Shachi Pandey, and I founded my practice, Metropolitan Urban Design Workshop, or MUD Workshop, about a decade ago. My practice is really dedicated to community-based urban design and planning. And we've done a number of comprehensive plans and master plans in the New York tri-state area. And we've also done some really, specific site planning work as well. So I think that was one of the things that was something that attracted us to your comprehensive plan RFP when we applied, because I believe that not only are you looking for a policy-based document that can guide the next 10, 20 years of growth, development, but also conservation and preservation. But that, you're also looking for some urban design ideas and how your city, your downtown and neighborhoods feel, what it is like to walk out on the street, what the public realm is going to be like. You know, as a community-based urban design practice, we really emphasize the idea that people are a big part of the success of any comprehensive plan or any you know, plan as such. And we make every effort to make sure that everybody is included. Before I jump into what that really means process-wise, I want to just quickly call out my sub-consultants. One of them is the Hudson Valley Pattern for Progress. They are joining us to do the socioeconomic housing infrastructure components of the comprehensive plan. They're pretty well known and have really strong roots in the Hudson Valley. And we're also joined by AKRF Incorporated, who are going to be helping us understand what type of zoning and regulatory environment we need in order to get to where the Mount Vernon wants to be. So they'll help us out with that, as well as with doing the environmental review and making sure that you know, nothing is negatively impacted through the policies that we propose or the recommendations we proposed. And they're a firm who are you know, mid-sized. Both AKRF is a mid-sized firm, Pattern for Progress, and my firm are smaller in size. But all three of us have you know, worked or been together in the professional field together in the past, and we know each other's working style, and we've been we're really excited to do the Mount Vernon Comprehensive Plan and Downtown Revitalization Plan together. So thank you for the opportunity. Now, with regards to the community-driven process, I just wanted to speak a little bit about it. There's these 3 tiers of engagement that we have planned for the Mount Vernon Comprehensive Plan. The first is really I would say, the tier where that is being led by the whole plan is being led by the Department of Planning and Community Development. But you know, we speak with the Planning and Community Development PCD at least once in 2 weeks. And in addition to that, we've been hosting interviews with agency leads, such as, you know, the Parks and Recreation Department or PWG, to understand what are the you know, the technical and conditions in Mount Vernon, more from like a physical design as well as planning standpoint. And while we're conducting this research, the Planning and Community Development, you know, Marlon, James, and Catherine are helping simultaneously lead these community conversations, which is helping us understand that as we, as us as consultants, try to are gathering existing conditions information and speaking with people at City Hall and the leads of all the agencies, that what is it that your, you know, desires are. In addition, there is this sort of mid-tier. You know, you guys are the I would say the broadest possible constituency. But then there's this mid-tier also, which is the advisory committee. And I see here in the Zoom that, you know, we've already I've met with Jane and Tal by Zoom or and Tal in person at the working sessions. We had about 5 working sessions to understand what the advisory committee has to say about you know, these specific topics related to the Mount Vernon Comprehensive Plan. So just wanted to kind of throw out there that there are a number of tiers of this engagement, and we are you know, and we're sort of playing tag team with PCD to make sure that everyone is getting covered and given the amount of attention that they need to get the right kind of information. So not only can we have a community-driven process and plan, but also something that is technically sound and is feasible. And with that, I want to just say that myself and all my my team members at the office, as well as all of our sub-consultants, are really looking forward to meeting you on the 20th of April in person, and hoping that we can present some of our findings and then get your feedback to move this forward. So that's all I have to say. Please, please feel free to begin the community outreach now. I'm going to sit here in the background and I'm reading all the comments in the chat. So thank you for that too.
Thank you, Shachi. We're really excited to be partnering with such great organizations to get this done, and to talk a little bit about the meeting agenda and how today is going to run. I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Commissioner Marlon Molina.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. So today, it's going to be interactive. We all have gotten used to the new norm, having these meetings via Zoom. Our meeting today, we're now going through the introductions. There's going to be an exercise on visioning activity, and then we'll move on to challenges and opportunities in which, we'll get to hear more from you. Please note that we're using the chat. We're also going to be using a platform where you can list your ideas. Anything that you submit via writing, we're going to make sure that we submit that to the consultant, where they're going to synthesize it. And again, you'll be able to see some of those themes at the workshop. So today you provide an overview. We're providing an overview of the comprehensive plan. There's going to be time for questions. And then again, we'll hear from you regarding your vision for the future of Mount Vernon, and we'll gather your thoughts and challenges and ideas. So now I'm going to turn it back to AC Maya for a community agreement.
Great, thank you. So in the next slide that we'll have up, we just want to share some community agreements that we've been using to kind of ground all of the conversations that we've had over the last few months. And so this is, again, just a way for us to collectively commit to showing up in a productive and respectful way during our conversations throughout this process. So the first is just to be respectful, right? We're excited to have the kind of diversity of different voices across these meetings. We want to be able to have difficult and hard conversations, and we just ask that you do so respectfully. Be present. Again, we recognize you are taking your Saturday morning to be with us, and I'm sure there's probably a lot going on in everyone's homes. So thank you again for showing up, and the ask is just to be as present as we can to participate in the activities that we have for you this morning. Step up, step back is an invitation just to notice your participation. So if you're someone who is maybe a little shy or not necessarily comfortable sharing in larger spaces, it's an invitation to share your thoughts. We want to hear from you. And if you're someone who has no problem sharing, we want to hear from you as well. And we just ask that you make space if you find yourself, speaking a lot in a space, so that other voices can also be part of the conversation. One mic is just an invitation to make sure that we have one person speaking at a time, so we can make sure that we're hearing everything clearly. Challenge ideas, not each other, again, is an invitation to, we know we're going to be grappling with different ideas. We know we're not going to agree on everything, and that's okay. And the ask is, when we do feel compelled to push back, that we're really focusing on the content of the conversation and not the person who is sharing that thought or idea. Speak from your own experience. Again, this process is only going to be as strong as the diversity of residents and community members who show up and share. And so we really encourage you to talk about your vision, your concerns, and your priorities from the experience that you have living here in the city. Keep your comments brief to allow for maximum participation. So again, we're going to have different ways for you all to share in the chat. We'll be using a Jamboard, and there will be opportunities for folks to also, share verbally throughout the meeting. And we just ask that you keep your comments brief so we can hear from as many folks as possible. And then since we are on Zoom today, if you're not speaking, please just stay muted so we can cut out any background noise. And if you do want to share anything, particularly when we're asking for you all to provide your thoughts or feedback, so please just use the raise hand function so we can keep track of who would like to speak. So since we are on Zoom, I'll just ask that if folks are in agreement with this, to either raise your hand or show me a thumbs up, or if you're on screen, just to give me the thumbs up on the screen so we all can collectively commit to using these agreements to guide our meeting tonight or today. Awesome, I see some thumbs up. Thank you, everyone. So I'm going to turn it back to Commissioner Rouse, who's going to provide a little bit more context on our comprehensive planning process. And we'll have space for questions before we jump into our activities.
Thank you, Associate Commissioner Major. So again, I'd just like to thank everyone for participating this morning and taking your time to be a part of this process. I mentioned before, the last time the city attempted this process was between 2009, 2011, and even though we didn't quite get over the hump with that, that provides a good foundation for where we are today. So if some of you have participated in that process, welcome back. We appreciate your continued diligence and dedication to the city of Mount Vernon. But a lot has changed over the last dozen years or so. We've had, a lot of changes politically. We've had Superstorm Sandy impact the area, as well as other hurricanes and tropical storms, and we're still coming out of a worldwide pandemic. So the way we're approaching comprehensive planning today and the vision for the city is just very different than the last time someone may have participated in the comprehensive plan. So again, this is the first part of our community outreach, as Shachi went over. The community conversations we're having, again, is being driven by Department of Planning and Community Development to, number one, gather information and to hear your thoughts and give you an opportunity to provide initial input to this process. But it's also an introduction, not only an introduction to the team here, but also an introduction to some of your neighbors, which you may not have met yet. And what these conversations will do is it will gather information to help advise the public workshop, which will take place in April. That's going to be a larger format, a little more intensive and in depth. And so what we hear today will help set that agenda and will help guide that kind of interaction. So to give a little bit of a background of how we're approaching this comprehensive plan, the city decided to do it in 2 phases. We're in the middle of the first phase right now, month number 4. And the reason we decided to do it this way is because since we have not been able to adopt a comprehensive plan since 1968, it's been quite a while. And also there's been a lot of pressure on downtown, particularly with development, the viability of our retail and such. And also downtown is a place that brings everyone together. So what we've done is to try to come up with a kind of zoning program, some streetscape guidelines, and how to deal with traffic, not only vehicular traffic, but transit, alternative means, transportation, just to help downtown thrive and grow. And while phase 1 is not necessarily limited to just downtown, it's more downtown focused. So when you participate today, don't feel that it needs to be, you can't talk about your neighborhood or how it relates to downtown and such. And so phase 1 is going to be approximately a 9-10 month process that we're almost halfway through right now. And so by summer, what we hope to have is a report. Again, the first public workshop is going to be at the end of April, and then we're going to have a second public workshop presenting our findings on June 29th. In location to be determined there, but the one in April will be at the Boys and Girls Club, and we'll be updating everyone with that information. So again, I apologize for my flickering background. There's an issue with my camera today. So as we begin to get towards the second phase and the end of phase one, there's going to be a bit of an overlap between the phases. So phase two is going to do a deeper dive into the neighborhood. So it's going to focus more on, the neighborhood that you live in and your immediate surrounding communities. And what that means is it gives folks an opportunity to talk about, specific issues in their neighborhoods, on their streets, on their blocks, that are impacting them in terms of development, in terms of design, in terms of overall growth. Um, that's important to note because, as I mentioned, we are looking to help create an identity for the city. You know, it's the city of Mount Vernon, but we're also a suburb of New York. But at the same time, we function as a small village with over 75,000 people in just over 4 square miles. And so we have to help determine, what's the city's identity, because once we know that, once everyone is comfortable with who we are, then that's the best way to determine how we grow. And now when I talk about growth, it doesn't necessarily mean lots and lots of development. It includes preservation, it includes maintaining a certain context to our neighborhoods, even as we grow. So I know sometimes folks have come up to us saying, well, I'm looking over what they're doing in New Rochelle, and there are a lot of towers over there, or what's happening on the Yonkers waterfront, or White Plains has developed a downtown core, or Portchester has really revitalized over the last few years. And all that's great. Those are great local case studies and local models that we can pull from and see what's worked there. But at the same time, it's not simply a copy and paste situation. We can't just take what's happened in New Rochelle or Portchester and just place it over Mount Vernon. And that's why forming an identity is important, and understanding who we are as a city and how we want that city to function. Now, as I mentioned before, we all have different individual visions for that, but today and the public workshops is an opportunity to bring those visions to the table and to share. And from that, we will hear different voices from different levels of stakeholders to help develop and to help create that by the time we finish this by the end of 2024. And so please, when you participate today, just take some time. Take some time to think, take some time to consider, like, what do you want to see happen for the city of Mount Vernon? So just want to talk a little bit about the process. Mud Workshop is here today representing. So how we came about to bringing them aboard is that during the summer and fall of 2022, we had a process that asked for requests for proposals for comprehensive planning services. So we received 4 submissions, all very qualified candidates, and the mayor, along with planning and community development staff, interviewed all 4 candidates. From that, we narrowed the candidates down to 2 and interviewed with myself and city council, and decided to go with Metropolitan Urban Design Workshop. So we are paying this through primarily 2 means: from the city budget, which was adopted by the city council, that the city has set aside $250,000 to pay for, but also part of that is a $75,000 grant from the New York State Empire State Development Corporation, which is a not-for-profit that agency that is an arm of the state. And so from that, we're drawing down funds to just execute this entire process over the next 18 to 24 months. And so at the end of the day, what are we going to have? We're going to have a document that's going to be a vision for the city. And so what I try to remind everyone, that the comprehensive planning process and the document that we develop at the end is not an end. It's actually just a beginning. So this is the guidelines for the next 10 years. This is the foundation that we're going to take and we're going to bring for not only this generation, but future generations. Because what we hope this is a foundation and a template that could be replicable 10 years from now. And so just be mindful that the information that you share today is, is not only short term, it's not only medium term, but it's long term. And so we're really excited to have you here. And I'm going to turn it back over to Associate Commissioner Maya, so we can go through the process. Thanks.
Yes, just to close out this section, just wanted to call attention to the visual on the screen right now. So as you can see there, I think the most critical piece is that outreach and engagement is something that is happening throughout the next 2 years. Right now, in this phase that we are in, we've started with community conversations, as was shared, being led by the Department of Planning and Community Development. We have our last community conversation on the calendar for the end of March. And then we'll kick off the first public workshop starting in April. And as you continue to look through the timeline, you will see kind of the different components that the consultants are really supporting with helping to draft and develop for us to review and collectively provide feedback when it comes to reviewing our zoning and really considering, how does the current zoning ordinance align or not align given the goals that we will have set for kind of, how we want the city to evolve. Really looking at existing conditions and how, where we are in the present, again, helps to inform where we want to go. Being able to develop a framework for the downtown as part of our first phase, and then continuing to kind of flesh out our priorities and recommendations for the city as a whole over the next 24 months. So before we move to our visioning activity and our challenges and opportunities activity, we just want to open the floor to see if folks have any questions, particularly on the process so far and the approach. And if you do, please feel free to raise your hand and we'll call on you, or you can drop your question in the chat and we can visibilize it for the group. Mr. Thomas.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
The format for the upcoming April 20th community conversation session, would you be able to describe briefly what that format is going to be like and who the expected target of participants would be?
Yeah, Shachi, would you feel comfortable answering that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that question, Tal. And we are assuming and hoping that we can engage you guys and keep you guys with us for at least 2 hours on the 20th of April. Of the 2 hours, we believe that at least 1.5 hours of that time is going to be quite focused on interactive and engagement and engaged exercises. So what we're planning on doing is starting with a presentation. It would start with a presentation from the Department of Planning and Community Development. And then us consultants are going to give you an overview of what we've learned so far from our workshops with you, Tal, with the advisory committee, from our conversations with the agency leads in Mount Vernon, and from a little bit of desk research that we've been able to get done so far. So once we've kind of given that planning context and community context, we'd like to dive into, kind of like open house or a gallery walk kind of a thing. We'll have some boards where you'll be able to interact with these boards and give your feedback, which will help us, as James was saying, solidify or at least move towards an identity for Mount Vernon, but also determine priorities for the whole community of Mount Vernon. And then in addition to this, in addition to this open house gallery walk, we'll also have a few stations where we'll have, ourselves, and I'm hoping people from our advisory committee, as well as planning and community development, that these three, the consultancy, advisory committee, and planning and community development together can be at each station together. And these will be topical stations where we'll lead the conversation with some questions. So questions regarding mobility and transportation, regarding downtown revitalization or public realm. And we'll encourage people to walk or stay at each walk from station to station or stay at one station if they like. So we can get some of the more subjective and descriptive feedback directly from community, in addition to, you know, in addition to when they're just interacting with the boards in the gallery walk. And then, you know, we hope to kind of just get back together and have a report back session from each station and then, you know, discuss next steps. So roughly that is what we hope to do, but we will be developing a full run of show closer to the date. And I think that we should be able to post that and share it with the whole community at least 3-4 days or 1 week, you know, in advance of the community workshop. So you'll have a much better idea time to time, like what we're hoping to do.
May I just ask a follow-up question very quickly then?
Of course, please.
Thank you. So in terms of the expected or proposed participant groups, would one of the primary, I'm asking, if one of the primary groups are going to be the advisory committee members as such, and the apparent constituencies that they might represent?
Well, I'm hoping that since we've already have 5 working sessions and another working session with the advisory committee, that the advisory committee will be able to work with us to engage the larger community. So I'm hoping that we could work together to, you know, reach a broader range of people and just get as much attendance as possible. And having you guys there is just going to be, you know, now that we've spoken with you and had this first round of feedback, and we're going to send the, you know, the meetings from those working sessions and maps. And essentially, I feel like you guys helped us get to the point of public workshops. So I'm hoping that you'll be working with us to engage the community. And so I don't think that you're necessarily, I mean, of course, we want feedback from you again, but I think we want to hear directly from the community at large. Was that the question? Did I answer it?
Yes, you wanted to clarify things for me, and I'm extrapolating the ideas in my head. So I'm kind of getting my.
So Tal, I'm hoping that when there is, I'm hoping that if I'm standing at the public realm table, that either you or Jane or, you know, someone else from the advisory or Eveline, who is really passionate about the public realm piece and the parks, is going to be with me at that station. You know, and I'll lead with the comments and, you know, and questions. But, you know, you guys know your constituencies best. So I'm hoping that we can join hands here to get to people.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I see a hand from Jane Curtis.
Yes, I just wanted to point out, and I think part of what Tal is trying to get at is that the advisory committee hasn't met as a body since the kickoff meeting. We haven't had a chance to talk as a group about what we have heard from the public and to synthesize that for ourselves and to come to some community-based conclusions about that.
Right. And one of the things you know, Jane, I believe that that was the purpose of the workshops that we had. But I would say that that is not yet complete. That process is not yet complete. As we had promised during the working sessions, we are going to circulate back to you within 7 to 10 working days with all the documented feedback that we've received in all of the topics. And we have now compiled all of that feedback. In addition, we are going to also be, you know, sending you a digital survey for any, you know, to encourage participation from people who could not attend these meetings. And then based on that, we are going to develop a run-of-show and initial questions and facilitators briefings as well. So these facilitators briefings and the run-of-show, we're happy to have it be shared with, we'll be sharing it with the planning and community development, I would say around the first week of April. So, we're happy to have this be forwarded if PCD thinks that that is the right way to go, and have you guys in the loop. So I think, what we want, the purpose of the 5 working sessions was to get the advisory committee together with regards to these topics. But what I'm describing is that, there's still an opportunity which we want to do and have it be more hybrid. We've done the in-person meetings now. Now we want to give an opportunity to let the advisory committee who couldn't participate remotely and we'll make sure that you have all the materials you need to participate in the community workshop as community leaders.
Okay. Any other questions? Maybe one more before we move to the vision, and we want to make sure we get to the part where we are hearing from you all directly as well. Just checking to see if there's any other raised hands. Okay, so the chat is open, so feel free to continue to drop any other questions or comments there. I'm going to turn it back to Deputy Commissioner Molina to get us started with our visioning activity.
Okay, everyone. So this is where, we start to listen to your vision about how do you see Mount Vernon. So, we want you to get in a space of, how do you want to experience Mount Vernon? And don't think about the cost, just think about, 10, 15 years from now, what do you want to see in Mount Vernon? And you're going to do this by typing it into the chat. And then we're going to take about 8 to 10, another 8 minutes where we're going to ask you to raise your hand and take about 30 seconds to express, some thoughts about your vision for Mount Vernon. We won't get to everyone. So this is why it's important that, whatever you think about, you put it in writing in the chat. And this, as I said before, will be shared with the consultant. So for the next 2 minutes, please start writing down what you think about Mount Vernon, what you want to see Mount Vernon, what you want to experience, positive things that you may have seen when you travel, that you would have a thought, oh, this would be an amazing thing if we had it back home. So we're going to take 2 minutes now to do that. Okay, we've seen some great comments in the chat. Please start raising your hand so we know that you're interested in sharing your vision. I guess folks are busy writing. So would anyone like to share what they wrote down or something maybe that they didn't write down yet? Raise your hand, please. No? Go ahead, Ms. Curtis.
Thank you. I wrote that, I want to see a city that has retained and enhanced its suburban character with a significant reduction of the density that we have here now. And I want all of Mount Vernon to look like what you see behind me, which is a photograph of my co-op. And it is clean, it is green, it is safe, it is in good repair. And all of Mount Vernon deserves this, and I don't see any reason why we can't have it.
Jada, please go ahead. Jada, please go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to speak on things that are projects that are started but not completed. And particularly, just to keep it short, for one example, I actually live on the corner of Fulton and Prospect. The Fulton Street Bridge has been down and out for quite some time. I see no work being done. It was supposed to be, my understanding in one of the local papers that I read, it was supposed to be back up and running last summer. And while it seems like a small thing, that Fulton Avenue Bridge that runs over the Metro North Railroad system is a huge, I'm not sure what the right word is, connecting bridge, if you will, and talk about having to take the scenic route because it hasn't been completed in a timely fashion. So just that, not to get on, that's an even bigger topic, but even like Memorial Field, all the fighting and the back and forth. And while we're seeing progress, how many years has it taken for these staples to actually be completed and fixed? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So another comment was, somebody wanted to see clean sidewalks, fully paved streets, a booming downtown with restaurant businesses, functioning street signage, accessible and inclusive playgrounds. And someone else wrote down they want to see a diversity of businesses, restaurants, stores, arts and cultural. And also they think a beacon is a good example. Oh no, they think beacon is a good example of this. So before we wrap up, I just want to give anyone else a chance to speak. So please, you don't have to raise your hand if you want to speak. Unmute yourself and go ahead and speak. All right, then.
Can I speak for a second?
Sure.
Thank you. I just think a few things I mentioned you didn't mention. I think a priority is no development that will change the economic, social, ethnic, racial diversity of the city, which we see happening with a lot of development. It's called gentrification, and it changes the community flavor. That would be a total crime to do that to Mount Vernon. At the same time, we want more vibrancy. We want perhaps a theater, some community areas where people can gather. There isn't, I don't know of any I would like to see cleaner streets. This is why I'm saying every neighborhood has different needs. All the waste baskets were taken out of my neighborhood. They weren't taken out of Fleetwood, but they were taken out of my neighborhood about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe longer. So we need to have equity. I didn't even put that in, equity among neighborhoods. We do need parking when we go shopping, for example, on Grand Merchant Avenue. A lot of times I don't go there because I go to someplace that has a parking lot. And we need to, have reasons for a little bit of upscale businesses without losing the ethnic flavor of the businesses that are already there. It's a challenge. It's a huge challenge. And the last thing I want to say is nothing should be done that doesn't not only maintain, but increase green space. Green space is not only important for the beauty of the city, it's important for our psychological health. It's also important for physical health. Communities that have more green space have fewer diseases such as asthma, allergies, just to point out a few of those things. So I'm sorry to be so lengthy, but I did write a bunch that wasn't mentioned. So I just wanted to say it.
Yes, thank you very much. Tal, go ahead, 30 seconds, please, so we can move on to the next exercise.
Just based on my experience, I would suggest that we need engagement at the local level, the micro level of our local communities. We need people to be engaged. I've heard so many good visions projected in terms of what we want to see in Mount Vernon, but how do you get that done? I think we really need to look at citizen engagement. And I'll just point this out because I'm a little bit annoyed at the absence of some of the people that I thought would be on the Zoom call. We have to encourage those individuals that we look to or have looked to or have invested as leaders to really get involved in this planning process at a more integral level. There are people that are just not showing up, and I'm not saying just on these Zoom calls or community conversations. They're not showing up in terms of conversing outside of this network. We're not interacting with them. Many of us who are trying to keep up with this process, we're not seeing them buy into this situation. And I think that's absolutely necessary to us forwarding any vision that we have in regard to the future of Mount Vernon. Thank you. I didn't mean to be so lengthy.
That's all right. Thank you very much, Tal. So now I'm going to turn it back over to Associate Commissioner Maya for the next exercise.
Great. So now that we've had a chance to, think about our individual visions for the future of Mount Vernon, we want to talk about, what are some of the challenges and concerns, but also the opportunities that allow us to think about, how we get from where we are to where we want to go. And as mentioned earlier in the conversation, phase one is really focused on downtown. So we're using that as a way to help frame the conversation. You are welcome, of course, to talk about particular issues in your neighborhoods. We'll have, a lot more time to really dig in across the particular neighborhoods in the second phase. But we really want to hear in this segment, again, your concerns and your challenges, but also opportunities. What are the assets that exist here that allow us to think about what might be possible to get to those visions? And in particular, we are focused today on housing, businesses, open space and parks, and transportation and mobility. And so this next exercise is going to happen in a few parts. We are going to start off by similarly giving you some time to just collect your thoughts and write down what you're thinking across these areas. And we'll be using a digital tool to help collect that. And then we're going to break up into 2 groups. And that'll be an opportunity for you to just, again, visualize and verbalize what you wrote. And that'll be, again, an opportunity for you to connect with fellow neighbors, but also to start getting a sense of what are some of maybe the themes, what are some of kind of the through points across these topics, but also maybe what are new ideas that we can, build on as well. And in those breakout groups, you'll have a note taker and we'll come back together to just make sure that those groups can kind of share back a summary of what the discussion was before we close our time together for today. So I'm going to briefly go through the Jamboard. This is the tool that we'll be using. And actually, there's a question around how are we defining downtown? So actually, Will, can you move to the map that we have on the slides first, and then we'll go through the exercise. So again, this is a proposed map of phase 1 downtown. So you can see, you know, it goes down to North 8th Ave, behind City Hall and the hospital, all the way down to Mount Vernon East and North Fulton Ave. And then we have the Bremerton South 4th Ave spine there going from Hartley Park down to East 4th Street. And so, you know, this again is as a proposal that we're using kind of to help anchor the conversations. When we meet together in April, we'll have a conversation to hear from you all, any feedback around how we might want to shift any of these proposed boundaries. And so again, this is a starting point. If you have particular priorities or ideas that you want to share that, you know, don't quite fit into the downtown, that's okay. We're going to capture everything. So let's go back to the instructions for the Jamboard. And I'm going to just drop the link in the chat as well. So the invitation is to use the links that I just dropped in the chat to collect your ideas. And so once you click on that, you'll see, you know, basically a big whiteboard with different topics on it. Next slide, please. And so in order to add your idea, you can navigate over on the left-hand side to what looks like a little sticky note icon. And when you click on that, a box will appear and you'll be able to write down any idea that you have and press save, and that will begin to populate the screen. And so you can continue to repeat that exercise, write something down, save it, click on the sticky note again to capture a new idea. And once you're done with housing, for example, once you've captured all those ideas, you can use the arrows on the middle of the screen, clicking left or right to access the other 4 topics. For folks that are on their phone or maybe have any trouble with the Jamboard, just let us know in the chat. We'll help to troubleshoot, or you can always just capture your ideas by those topics in the chat. Again, we're going to be collecting all of this, we're recording this, so in one way or another, we'll make sure that we are capturing the ideas that you are sharing. So I'm going to ask Will if you can share your screen with the Jamboard, and I'll review those instructions again, and then we'll ask you all to get started. So as you can see there, this is the screen you'll see when you click on the link in the chat. If you go to the left and click on the sticky note, there a box will pop up, so you can type in your idea there, and once you press save, it'll populate the screen. And so you can continue to repeat those steps to add your thoughts across each of the specific topics.
Oh, housing.
All right, any clarifying questions before we get started? I see one person already threw in one idea there. Okay, so we'll give you a few minutes. Again, if you click on the left or right, you'll be able to access each of the different topics. Feel free to focus on one if you're really excited or passionate about a particular topic, but you'll have about 5 minutes to add as much as you'd like. And if you have any trouble with the Jamboard, you are welcome to just jot your ideas in the chat, and we'll make sure to capture all of it and synthesize it.
Just for a little help, in order to switch between each topic at the top where it says 1/14, there are arrows on each side, so you can move between each of them.
Great, thank you. So we'll give you all some quiet time to just organize your thoughts and to populate the Jamboard, and then we'll come back together and break out into 2 separate groups to start discussing what you all shared in this document. All right, we're gonna give folks just another 60 seconds. If you haven't had a chance, feel free to drop your sticky notes across the topics. And if you're having any challenges with the Jamboard, you are welcome to use the chat to capture your ideas. So 60 more seconds and we'll move to breakouts after that. All right, thanks everyone for capturing your ideas. So now we're going to move into breakout groups. We're going to spend about 10 minutes. And again, it's an opportunity for you to just verbalize some of the thoughts and questions that you've been sharing via the Jamboard and in the chat. We're going to ask one person from each group to be the designated note taker who can then share back with the full group. And then we'll come back together and close out our meeting. So I'm going to open the breakout rooms now. Please make sure to accept the invitation to join your room.
How do we get back to the Zoom to go into our, oh, okay.
Yes, you should be seeing an invitation to join breakout room. So I see a few folks here, Mr. Thomas, Mr. May, we have Brody, and also Stephanie. You should see an invitation to join a breakout room on your screen. If you click on that, you'll be able to move to the respective discussion. All right, so we just have Stephanie, Brody. If you're still with us, please make sure to click to join your breakout room. I'm going to join mine in a few seconds, so if not, you'll be in limbo here for about 10 minutes. So please feel free to click on that to join the discussion. All right.
Catherine, did you see my chats?
I did not.
Okay. Just
Can you unmute, Mr. May?
Oh, okay. How's that?
Yeah, and
All right.
I think you turned off your camera when you were at it. All right, so let's all stay on mute. And I understand, Aaron, that you have a 4-year-old. So here's what we're gonna do now. We'd like to take the next 5 minutes for you to kind of share what you wrote down. And we need to select somebody who can report back to the rest of the group. Just, take some notes on what folks are saying, and then share that back to the group when we come back together. Who would like to volunteer for that? I'm gonna wait until somebody volunteers. Really? All right. So it's always better when one of the residents reports back instead of a staff person, which is the reason why I meant to maintain this, which is the reason I'm gonna ask that you come back. Catherine, there's somebody who just joined the general room. Okay. All right then. So why don't we go around the room then, and essentially, you spend some time writing down ideas of challenges as well as opportunities. So if you can, just share it and welcome Stephanie. And actually, let me bring Stephanie up to speed. Stephanie, we are currently in a breakout session. We have spent about 10 minutes thinking about challenges and opportunities as folks want to see Mount Vernon move forward. So while other folks go around, think about some things that you see as challenges, as well as some things that you see as opportunities that Mount Vernon can do. Write them down, and then at some point during this conversation we can share. So I'm going to be quiet now, and one of you will have to volunteer to speak first.
And just for Stephanie's edification, just so you know, the 4 topics we are helping to ground the conversation in are housing, transportation and mobility, businesses, and parks and open space. So when you think about those challenges and opportunities, those are the different topics that we are using to help ground our conversation.
All right, so who wants to share first?
Could you repeat them?
Sure.
Transportation.
Yep, transportation, housing, businesses, so businesses, the local economy, and then parks and open space.
This is Erin. I mean, I can go first. For quite some time, hold on, Keaton. For quite some time, we've been advocating for some funding to redo the playground on South Adams between Franklin and Fulton. It's a little bit antiquated, is a positive statement. It's borderline dangerous for children. Adults gather there in the evenings and on the weekends, and sometimes even during the weekdays to do non-children activities. So that's something that I'm really advocating for you guys to extend those borders so that could be included. Large zombie house on the corner of Franklin and Adams that the neighborhood has been trying very, very hard to get the city's attention. We finally did get the mayor out there, but only after a neighbor called News Channel 12. So I really just would love to see those boundaries extended, especially because one of my neighbors mentioned the bridge, and I don't know how much control we have over that because that's that's state MTA funding. But the latest transportation issue that we're having on the corner of Fulton and Fulton and East 3rd, it's problematic, and it's really changed the traffic flow. I'm not complaining about less cars, but it makes it really hard for anyone who lives in this section to get around, and also really, really, really just want to advocate for safer and better infrastructure for walkers and bikers. People come flying down first, and so many of our neighbors in Pelham and New Rochelle are coming over to park at that station. And again, I don't know how much power we would have to financially benefit by charging non-residents to park in that area, but they're also parking on the streets around it. So I wonder if there's any thought to having a resident parking permit so that people who actually live in the neighborhood can park on the street rather than our neighbors coming over from Pelham and bordering neighborhoods to park and take a cheaper train to Mount Vernon. And again, just a crosswalk or a light outside that parking lot, it makes me very nervous to walk out of the train with a 4-year-old and try to cross that street and travel up Franklin. It's dangerous. Anyway, I've talked enough. Thanks.
Thank you. Who would like to go next? Letitia, Mr. May?
Okay, I'll go. It's Letitia. With transportation, the buses, I don't know how they schedule them from one to the next. For example, the 42 stops at Fifth Avenue and First, and then to get the 7, you would have to go to Prospect. I'm disabled. The walk from Fifth and First over to where I have to get the bus at Prospect, if I walk it, I might not get the bus. So there needs to be better timing for handicapped people, because I may get there and he's just pulled out because I don't have enough time to walk between the 2 bus transfer stations. Like like White Plains and New Rochelle, they have a bus station that's there that all the buses go out of. So I don't know if something like that could be built up in Mount Vernon. The roadways, as far as parking is concerned, maybe there's some streets that need to be one side parking and not parking on the other side because it's too congested. With housing, I know that the governor has done something with 35 years of rent stabilized housing. I don't know if we have any rent stabilized housing in Mount Vernon, but that would be a good thing. So people will have a sliding scale as far as paying rent, not paying $2,000 and $3,000 when they don't have it. I don't understand why the system will pay a shelter $3,000, but won't pay a landlord $3,000. And all you do is have a room and a bathroom. In an apartment, you have everything functioning. As far as business is concerned, when you go from 3rd Street on Gramerton on 4th, and then cross over and then go up to the park, that should be well manicured. Everybody has different other signs. If you go to other villages, it looks like this is the heart of town. It doesn't look like it's a hodgepodge of junk shops. And that's what 4th Avenue looks like. And then you cross over and you think Gramerton Avenue looks any better. If you look at Gramerton Avenue, it's every 2 stores. There's nobody in. So Gramerton Avenue doesn't look that great either. And then as far as parks and spaces, they're not well maintained. The equipment is not well maintained. You have places where there's supposed to be grass. There's no grass. Some parks look better than others. All the parks should look the same. Not one neighborhood should have a park looking better than the next neighborhood. You have funds for all your parks. You know where all your parks are. Then the funding should go out accordingly. That's what I have to say.
Mr. May?
Am I unmuted?
You are, yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. There's an entranceway off of the cross county, and at one time there was a beautiful signage there and a nice little brick. I guess you would call it and it stated welcome to Mount Vernon or something like that. And then one day I'm driving by and it looks like it was wrecked. I don't know whether or not a car ran into it or what, but it was kind of destroyed. Those entranceways, wherever they are, need to be improved. When people are coming into Mount Vernon, they need to see a welcoming sign. That was one of the things. And they're usually grassy areas that need to be cared for. We were talking about the tree planting on the sidewalk down around Memorial Field. That's something that's in the works that we're considering. And that's another way of beautifying Mount Vernon for those people that are passing by in their automobiles or walking. Parks are difficult because they're used, and the people that use them, the children and the families that use them, those are the ones that should be crying out. It shouldn't be really coming from a committee. Folks, I haven't been in a park in years, so it's difficult for me to say, oh, this needs to happen to this park, this needs to happen to that park, because I'm not using the parks. So it really falls on the shoulders of the people in the community. We need to reach out to them and find out. And I guess this is part of communication. How do you find out whether or not somebody is upset because their park is not well maintained or that it needs to be upgraded, that kind of thing? Otherwise, it's just beautifying something that's there. And I don't see any children playing in the parks hardly. So I don't know what to say about that. Housing, it's very difficult for me to talk about housing because I don't know what's happening. I have a house and I'm paying taxes on it, so and it's well used. So I don't know about the residential facilities in Mount Vernon, whether or not they're fully occupied or well maintained. And again, that has to come from the community, the people that are there. So we have to make a way for them to raise the challenge to this committee and any other committee that wants to serve their interests. Other than that, I don't have too much more to say. You know, we're definitely concerned about green spaces and improving them and planting trees and flowers and things of that sort to make them more attractive to the people that are in those communities. And I'll leave it there.
Thank you, thank you. Stephanie, so you've had a chance to, listen to, some of the concerns. Would you like to share some of your thoughts?
Well, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I had an audio issue. I agree with Mr. May very much. I don't use many of the parks, but the issue is that when I want to use a park, I get in my car and I leave Mount Vernon and I go to a nice park. And that's been my existence in Mount Vernon. I've been here since 1975. Every time we want to shop, we get in our car and we go shop where we want to shop. We pay taxes here, lots of them, and it would be nice to keep the money home. I agree with Letitia. We have to have some kind of concern. I'm sorry I didn't hear the whole thing. I came on the whole Zoom very late. But we have to have some concern for the people who live here. Mount Vernon just cannot be a money grab for people to come in here, make all of the money, take it and spend it elsewhere. They don't live here, or it's just an idea of, let's get this guy elected so we can get a job. If we are a community, we have to work together. Yes, I'm a homeowner as well. But when I agree with Mr. May, every approach to this town should be welcoming and beautiful. We can't have people thinking Mount Vernon is the slum of Westchester. And there's got to be a concerted effort that we are not the dumping ground for Westchester County. That's, I agree with most of the statements and the little sticky notes that I saw earlier. But I've been here long enough to be just, disgusted. Election after election after election, the main infrastructure issues don't get solved. There's money that comes from the government to fix those issues, and they don't get resolved. These are basic quality of life issues. I'm on the north side. We're all on the north side on this call, basically. We shouldn't have our neighbors in Mount Vernon worrying about sewage coming up into their house. So yeah, I'm also a gardener, but I love flowers and I love trees. I love all of that, but we can't put lipstick on a pig. Let's fix it. Let's fix it. We are neighbors. Let's stop being angry with each other, picking our sides and staying there like we do on the national political level. Let's be a team and let's fix this town. We have some beautiful people in Mount Vernon, always have. Lovely. So these are my concerns. I don't care who the mayor is. I want it done.
Okay, thank
And
you.
on that note, I love all my neighbors.
Mr. Thomas, can I ask you to share your thoughts on the main group? We are running a few minutes behind the other group, and so I want to make sure that we can visibilize the comments across
Sure.
the groups before we end.
Yes.
Thank you all for your comments. I'm going to ask one more time, is anyone in this group willing to report back on behalf of the conversation that we had in this group?
I feel like I was too late to enter, so I can't do it.
Okay. Well, we'll be coming back. I took some notes. I'm happy to share. And if anyone else wants to jump in on anything I missed, I just would encourage you to do so. And we'll be heading back to the main group now. Thank you all for your comments and for the ideas that you shared in this discussion.
Thank you.
All right. I think our members of our group are slowly coming back. Thank you all for your patience. I will be reporting back on behalf of the group we were in, and I encourage folks who were in that discussion to please chime in if there's anything I missed or that you want to share, including Mr. Talbert. I know we ran out of time there, but in our discussion, residents shared just general investments and needing to maintain our playgrounds, our green spaces, our parks, and making sure that that's done so equitably across the city. And also an idea of how we kind of can track, spaces that maybe aren't as well maintained as others, so that information is visibilized. Addressing zombie homes, which I know came up earlier. Investing in safer and better infrastructure for pedestrians and for bikers across the city, so folks who aren't just using cars to get around. Making transportation, like our bus system, more accessible, including to folks who are handicapped, so that they can, fully utilize the transportation services that exist here in the city. In terms of housing, there was an idea to invest in rent stabilized housing options, so giving folks an ability to pay based on their income. And addressing quality of life issues generally. There's a concern that a lot of those issues are not getting resolved, and that Mount Vernon has become, the dumping ground of Westchester. Anything that I missed or that anyone else in our group wants to share back with the full group here? Okay. I will now introduce whomever is planning to share back from the other group, so that you can let us know what you all discussed.
So Jane Curtis will be reporting back from our group.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. I took our notes. We talked about adding, in addition to new businesses, to add amenities such as community centers, civic meeting spaces, recreational venues, private and public fitness centers, including restoration of the YMCA, the possibility of a private health services mall, sort of one-stop shopping for all the doctors that you need to see. There's concern about the ghost houses and street repair. And can we go meterless with our parking, so that it's, you don't have to worry about getting a ticket when you're downtown shopping. We need more public restrooms and attention to our homeless population, and regular volunteer park cleanups to assist DPW in their work. There's a request for a moratorium on variances for developers until the comprehensive plan is complete. And as we are diversifying and improving our downtown business district, to be cognizant of maintaining population diversity and ethnic diversity, beautifying our space, offering a free shuttle service such as that in New Rochelle, and how we would go about funding that. And an overarching theme of the repair of our infrastructure that is necessary before our visions can be realized. Is there anything critical that I missed, group?
You covered everything, Jane. As far as that.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Great. Thank you all for that discussion and for sharing your ideas in that Jamboard and in the chat. As we shared, all of this will be collected and provided to the consultant. We've been hearing a lot of the same themes throughout these community conversations, as well as new ideas. And so as shared earlier, the goal really is to visibilize all of those really critical ideas in the April 20th meeting, so you all can kind of get a sense of what your neighbors have been discussing in these meetings to date. So now we're just going to talk about a few next steps and close and let you all get, along with the rest of your Saturday. So I'm going to turn it back to Deputy Commissioner Molina to talk about next steps.
Well, first we want to thank everyone for their input. It's important that we emphasize again that all of your notes, everything that you wrote into the Jamboard will be shared with the consultant. Our next meeting is going to be March 28th at the Riverside Memorial Chapel. And, some of you said that you wish you see more people at these meetings. So please spread the word. Let's, I always say at all the meetings, if you can do a texting tree, text friends and family, let them know that it's coming. People are busy. And a reminder would help to improve the turnout. So the first date for the first citywide public workshop will be April 20th at the Boys and Girls Club. Again, if you have any questions, you can call our department at 914-840-4029. And for more information on just the overall process, go to envisionmountvernon.com. So what time is the workshop for at the Boys and Girls Club? That is,
yeah, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. So it'll be an evening meeting. And we'll be, creating flyers and providing more details for that very shortly.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you very much. I hope you have an amazing weekend and enjoy the rest of your Saturday.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.